Welcome to Next Gen Manufacturing. Today, we're diving into something that is so fundamental to making amazing products, but, it often gets overlooked. We're talking about building quality right into the design from day one. It's all about a massive shift from fixing problems to making sure they never, ever happen in the first place. And honestly, it's the secret sauce of modern manufacturing. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the absolutely staggering cost of getting things wrong. Then we'll explore why quality is something you have to choose to do. It's never an accident. After that, we'll get into the actual tools that give you a kind of crystal ball, a bit of foresight. Then we'll shift our focus to designing the right product, which is a game changer. And finally, we'll tie it all together into what is truly the blueprint for the future of manufacturing. All right, first up, the high cost of failure. This whole section is about what our source material calls non-quality. Think of it as this quiet, invisible leak that's just draining resources from a company. It starts way, way before anything hits an assembly line. And, as you're about to see, the costs are just eye-watering. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You get something new, you're excited, you open it up, and it's just not what you expected. It doesn't work right, or it's confusing. It's just plain frustrating. And the real reason for that frustration? It's probably not what you think.
See, the typical way of doing things is to have inspectors check for mistakes at the end of the production line. But our source material makes it incredibly clear that that is way, way too late. It's like trying to fix a skyscraper's faulty foundation after you've already put the roof on. The real mistake, the one that matters, happened a long, long time ago. Okay, now look at this. This is where it gets really crazy. This table breaks down just how much a single mistake can snowball. The numbers here are in French francs, but the principle is universal. So a small error that starts in marketing, it costs maybe 188 francs to fix right then and there. No big deal. But if you don't catch it until the design phase, the cost triples. If it gets to manufacturing, whoa, it explodes. And if that exact same little error actually reaches the customer, that initial 188 francs mistake could end up costing the company almost 1.9 million. It's not addition, it's an exponential nightmare.
And that leads us right to our next big idea. Quality is not an accident. If you want to avoid those kinds of catastrophic costs, you can't just treat quality like one more inspection step. It has to be the architectural blueprint that you build everything else on top of. The official definition of quality is actually pretty brilliant. It's not just about meeting the expressed needs, the stuff a customer actually writes down on a list. The real magic is in satisfying the implicit needs. That's the keyword right there. These are the things we just expect, that a product is going to be reliable, that it's going to be easy to use, that it just works. If you ignore the implicit stuff, you're basically designing for disappointment. So how do you actually build this quality in? Well, one of the classic models is the Deming Wheel. You might have heard of it as PDCA, plan, do, check, act. The key thing here is that it's not a straight line. It's a loop. It's a cycle that never stops. You plan what you're going to do, you do it, you check your work against the plan, and then, this is crucial, you act on what you learned to make the whole process better for next time. This is the engine of improvement, and it all starts with the plan stage. Okay, so that brings us to the really practical stuff, a toolkit for foresight. This is where we stop talking theory and start looking at the actual methods you can use to predict, and more importantly, prevent failures before you've even made a single thing. The mindset shift here is just huge. Instead of sitting around waiting for problems to pop up, you actively go hunting for them. You become a detective inside your own design process. You're basically trying to break your own product on paper so that it never, ever breaks in a customer's hands. And the number one tool in your detective kit is something called FMECA. That's Failure Mode, Effect, and Criticality Analysis. In our French source document, they call it AMDCEC, but it's the same idea. It's this incredibly powerful, systematic way to take your design apart, piece by piece, and ask one simple question over and over again. What could possibly go wrong here? So how does it actually work? Well, it's pretty straightforward, really. You start by listing everything your product is supposed to do, its functions. Then, for every single function, you brainstorm all the ways it could fail. Then you figure out what happens if it does fail. And here's the cool part. You calculate a risk score. It's basically how severe the failure is, times how likely it is to happen, times how hard it is to spot. This instantly shows you where your biggest dangers are, so you know exactly where to focus your energy to design those problems out of existence. And taking this proactive approach, it leads us to what might just be the most important part of this whole explainer: designing the right product. This isn't just about making a product well, it's about making the right product in the first place. It's a total change in perspective from what a product is to what a product does for someone. The author of our source material, Claude Farabouf, just nails it with this quote. Let that sink in for a second. It's a complete reversal of how most people think. Stop focusing on the physical thing you're building. Instead, start by thinking about the service, the outcome, the solution that your user actually needs.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The old way is all about features. Our drill has a 2-amp motor, right? The new way is all about the service. Our product gives you an easy way to hang pictures perfectly straight every single time. You see the difference? It's huge. Nobody actually wants a drill. They want a hole in the wall. The product is just how they get it.
And you might be thinking, okay, this sounds nice in theory, but this is not just some philosophical idea. It has massive real-world results. Get this. The source gives an example of an electrical connection box. After redesigning it based on what the user actually needed, the cost to make one dropped from over 30 francs to just 8.40. And since they sold 25,000 of them a year, that one single change saved the company over 500,000 francs every single year. So let's bring it all home. Our final section, the next-gen blueprint. This is where we connect all these dots and see why this idea of quality by design is basically the essential operating system for the entire future of making things.
Think about it. We've got factories today with AI, with robotics, with incredible automation. They can make things faster than we ever thought possible. But that technology, it's just a multiplier. And if you give it a bad design, all it's going to do is make flawed products at lightning speed. Quality by design is that critical blueprint. It makes sure all that amazing technological power is actually aimed at the right target, building the right product the right way from the very beginning. It turns raw power into real customer value, and ultimately, real profit. And that really just leaves us with one final question to chew on. As all this technology gets more and more powerful, maybe the real advantage in next-gen manufacturing isn't about having the coolest robots or the smartest AI. Maybe it's about having the wisdom, the foresight, and the discipline to design the right thing in the first place. Maybe the future of manufacturing isn't so much about technology, but about foresight,